Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris and this is Taylor Welding and this is Bud Patterson. He's with me and we're going to talk about welding jobs. After there's a lot of people on here that are skilled hands. I mean, we've got everybody from just getting started wanting to be pipe welders and make the big money. And we've got people that are have been doing it for 30, 40 and 50 years even. I mean, guys that have been in the field a long time. So knowing that we've got, all ranges, we're going to try to set you in the right direction so you can make the most money. That's what I try to do, in everything I do. Which one makes the most money? Okay, I'll do that one. Go ahead and make that decision now. So, uh, why don't you fill me in on, or all of us in on how the best money you've made, how to get started? Let's just kind of talk through it.
All right. Well, kind of like a lot of people started getting when I first started welding, was mostly going out doing farm projects and weld up buildings and everything. Switched over into commercial, doing that and private, and then also got into the pipelines. And of course, that all just kind of crashed and everything along those lines. So I would say back in 2017. I have a couple other companies and businesses that I do with government contracts and military bases. And it all just kind of happened that this contractor that I was doing another project for, not welding, but something else, uh, they had a pipe burst and they was trying to find a welder. And I told them, I said, well, I'm a certified welder. And they said, well, will you come and do this? I was like, sure. So, it was like a 3 hour deal, and 2.5 hour or 3 hours, 2.5 hours of that was driving. And it was a 30-minute fix on a water main. They turned around and paid me $4,000 for that. And I was like, holy cow, this is a cash cow right here. And so I started, and the contracting officer was out there, and he was talking to me, and the contracting officer for the government, that is. And he said, well, there's a lot of GCs out here on this base, and this is Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma. And he said that, uh, they're always needing a welder. So he passed my name around. And then I started diving into this more and more. Probably one of the best things it did is that they called me and said that they needed to hang a air unit 42 feet up in the air in the middle of a hangar off of the ceiling. And would I come and weld a platform up for that? And I said, well, sure. And normally in you and I's world, it was a 3-day job with a helper. And I was thinking, it's probably $4,000. Well, what I learned from the contracting officer, he said, always ask what their budget is, because every contractor has to turn in a budget for with the Corps of Engineers of what each little line item that they have. Well, their budget for this labor wise was $16,000. And I said, well, what will you pay me? And they said, we'll pay you $14,800. That leaves them to make their $1,200 profit on top of my labor. I said, well, geez, yeah, I guess I could do that. And man, I was skipping all the way back to the truck. So that's kind of how that came about, and that's how it started. So going forward on this and telling other people, I sent you an email, Chris, of how this lists out of the steps to do that. Do you want me to go through that kind of real quick with your audience?
Yeah, we can scan through that, and I might even copy and paste it, put it in the description of this video because this is important. These are the kind of nuggets that you're not going to get everywhere. So try to think through it and yeah, hit the highlights, and I'll kind of read
Okay.
along with you. But yeah,
All right.
you do
So
you.
the highlights are the very first thing you need to do is find out what bases obviously are around you. And before I start any of this, to be able to work on any kind of military basis, you can't be a felon, you can't have any kind of criminal history or any kind of problems that would come up in a background check. And so, one way you can find out, hey, can I do this or not, is every military base has a visitor center. So you go to the visitor center there, and they will run a background check on you. And if you pass at that time, well, then go ahead while you're there and get you a 1 year pass to the base. You get a 1 year pass each time. And they may ask if there's a contract that you're working on and not. And some bases will say you have to be on a contract before they'll give you a pass or not. But they still run the background to see if you can get on there. This is a very good selling point for your GCs or the contractors that are working on the base. And then that's your first thing you have to have. You got to be able to get on base. The second thing is that you at least have to be a 6G certified welder and licensed, and make sure you carry your license with you. So here's the steps. Whenever you call and look
Hey,
around
hold
at
up,
the base,
just for a second.
yeah,
So there was no welding test.
there's no welding test.
So how do you? Because in our line of work, you can show up on a pipeline and you can say, "I got all these papers," and they're going to make you take a welding test.
They
Uh,
don't with the military. You
so
have the
how do you get
papers.
that paper? How do you get the paper you're talking about?
The 6G welder's license. Mine
Yeah.
is okay. It's from the state. I went and took a state license test. Oklahoma requires that you have to go take a state test at the Department of Labor.
See, you learn something every day, guys. I've never had to do anything like that. I usually go out, they test me, the inspector comes out, they tear it apart and rip it apart and look for problems, and then if they don't see any, they pass you. But according to Mr. Patterson, you don't have to do that. That's cool. That would be nice.
Yeah, and the other thing is that my license from Oklahoma will go across state lines to different because you're federal. The states have nothing to do with it. So if I went down to Fort Bliss and did a job in Texas, all I still have to show is my card, my 6G certification card from the state of Oklahoma. And that, so there's no testing on that. I
Okay.
guess the test would be as if whatever you're welding at the base falls down or something, you're probably not going to get called back.
Yeah.
So, all right. So here's the very first thing you guys want to do. Once you figure out what base you want to go to, you want to contact the MICC, and that's the Military Installation Contracting Command. Every single base has that, Army, Air Force. Sometimes with the Army, it's the DPW, Department of Public Works, but the Navy, Marines, and the Air Force are all the MICC, MICC, Military Installation Contract Command. And you can actually Google that online for the base and try to get in that way. Once you get a hold of them, and good luck, remember they're government workers, not the brightest people in the world, and they don't answer the phone all the time, is you want to talk to a contracting officer that works in the MICC. You can ask for a list of all the general contractors who have contracts on that base. Now, they may say, oh, we can't give that information. And you can say, oh, yes, you can, because it's public information. And so, can I have a list? And depending if they're motivated enough or if it's close to their lunch break, they may help you out or not. The secondary way is to go to sam.gov. That is a federal website that lists all the projects in the United States and overseas abroad. And you can just go in and narrow it down by your search engines of what base you want to go to and along those lines. It will pull up every single contract that has been awarded at that base, and it will give you all the GCs and their contact information. So to me, that's the easy part. The third part is that you have to get a hold of those general contractors, GCs, and convince them that you want to be a welder at the military base. So this is just like you were going to try to apply for a job, or whether you're on the pipeline or somewhere else, that you're bidding against other welders with this GC. So you go see them, you bug them until they finally give you an opportunity or at least speak to you. Remember, the squeaky wheel gets the grease in this type of business. Once you get one general contractor to give you a contract, man, then it opens up the doors to all the others. And tell them that you are a 24-hour on-call repair person too, because a lot of welders won't do that. They'll say, oh, no, I'm only from 9 to 5 or 8 to 6, where it may be. But if you tell them I'm a 24-hour, 7 day a week emergency repair, that will help you also.
And that's going to get you those big $4,000 30-minute jobs. You know,
Yeah,
you be the Johnny on the spot. That's what I had to do. Yeah,
exactly.
you're right.
And so here's a once you're on the base, okay, and you got in with a GC, every project on a military base has a contracting officer, a government contracting officer that oversees that job. Now, this is what happened with me is that when he came over to visit, I said, well, hey, hang around here, because he had some questions about welding, especially since I'm hanging 42 feet up in the air doing this. And, he was giving me crap about I hope that don't fall on me. And I was like, well, I hope it don't either. I'm going home. But anyway, so you get to know these guys and you buddy up with them because they are the key to all the other projects on that base. And what if you do a good job and get to know the government contracting officer? I'm not talking about the GC. You're already hired by the GC to do this job for the GC, but you are want to know who the government contracting officer is, get to know him, and he will open up the door. So when I did this job of the up on the ceiling, he got me in with 12 other general contractors on that same base. And then it opened up other bases to like Fort Sill and Altus. So I'm I'm kind of like the go-to guy now for welding on these bases and everything. So
That's awesome.
that is how you get in. Now, when you bid these jobs, here's the key to it is that, like I was telling you, this job that I would have said I would have bid it at $4,000, with a helper, a 3-day job. But I was told, before to find out what the budget is. So every GC has a budget for every single line item that's on that project that they're working on. So you go to your GC and you ask them, what is your labor budget for this project? And they break it down by material and labor on everything. And that's where I told you I made, they bid it at 16,000. They paid me 14,800.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, and you find out. So one thing you do not want to do is that if they say, well, you need to supply materials, walk away because you do not want to have the liability of providing materials for any government job, because if something goes wrong or there's a material fail, it's the federal government that comes back on you.
And they're
Of course, don't
probably
come
going to
to the
want
GC.
they're going to want heat numbers and where it
Yeah,
was made and all
yeah,
this. Yeah,
all
I
the
agree
all the
100%.
engineering specs and everything. So I actually had one of them say that. Well, you need to provide materials, and I walked away. Guess what? They called me back 3 days later and said that they were providing materials. I'm like, all right, that that's a pretty nice deal. So those are just a few of the tips I have on if you're wanting to look at doing a government type project along those lines. And
That man,
that's
that
about
is
all I
good.
got.
That's some good stuff. I wish I could have seen this video, 25 years ago,
Well, yeah,
because
me
I
too.
I probably would have taken my sights off of being the top pipe welder
Right.
and gone towards that because, pipeline really wasn't my thing. Fabrication was my thing. So that would have really set me up good. So I hope somebody takes action. If you're, into this kind of stuff, like the video first. If you know somebody, your kid or a relative, a friend that's starting into welding, share it with him. People need to know there's a lot of money in welding. And I have a lot of people say, yeah, I make good money at a shop running a MIG welder. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. I'm telling you, Mr. Bud here was legit making a killing through the military bases. And I hope this helps one person. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, the thing is that I haven't hardly seen any competition of doing this on the military basis. Not like the pipeline where it's cutthroat.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but this actually I have not met another single welder on any of these bases. So it's kind of like, wow, I may kind of own this joint.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on, bud. I really
Yes, sir.
appreciate it. And if you got any questions, put them in the comments, and if you have any success doing this, put that in the comments as well. That helps me continue to make content. And that's it, man. Thanks for coming on, brother.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Have an awesome, awesome day. We'll see you in the next one. Later.